so bad. Yeah. So it is being recorded, and I will ask you all to please mute. Bobby, mute, everybody please mute. And when you're ready to speak to Shelley with a comment or a question, you'll unmute and we will take it from there. You all know the drill. I'm Marilyn London. I am membership chairman and board member of the Friends of the Sterling Road Library, and I welcome you all to this evening to another fabulous Shelley program. I want to thank you, those of you who are friends of the library. I want to thank you so very much for being a friend, because that helps us have Shelley and all the other Linda and Robert Watson and everybody else who comes to lecture with us, and we are very grateful to that. We had a fabulous annual meeting, and for a small library, we do an amazing amount of work. So I would like to just tell you that if you are not getting your emails from us, and you're not receiving any information, please let us know and we will clean it up. If you're not getting them and you don't tell us, we don't know, so we can't correct it. So I asking you to please do that. The newsletters have the calendar and it has all of the flyers. So I'm not going to go over any of them with you because you already have it. And if you are not a friend and you would like to have more information and become a friend for $10 a year, we are the biggest bargain in town, right, Jackie? So please check us out, www.sterlingfriends.org, and join us, and we would be happy to have you with us. And we are well over 500 members, so we are doing something right. And figure out why when you become a friend also. Tonight we are, Shelley is taking us to France. So you didn't go to France on your last trip, right?
Well, I flew into the airport and I left from Nice.
Well, we're back, we're in France, and we can't wait to hear all about Revoir Paris. And Shelley, we are so grateful and so thankful to have you lecture with us. We all know we're all your groupies, so I'm not going to give them your CV because they know all about you. We're just so happy that you are with us. So take us back and let us fly off to Paris.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Please forgive me. I've got some laryngitis this week. Hopefully it'll go away and I'll get my voice back soon. Anyway, yes, tonight, this is the first film for the fall. It is entitled Revoir Paris. It is from 2022. And the director and writer of the film, young woman, her name is Alice Winokur. She has become, in the last 10 or 15 years, one of France's finest screenwriter directors. Each of her films has received critical and audience acclaim with awards from festivals and film academies throughout the world. In this program, I have presented one of her first films entitled Mustang. It was a Best International Academy Award nominee. Concerning five sisters trying to overcome an oppressive environment in rural Turkey. And among her other films, there is Augustine, which is based on a true story of a relationship between the pioneering 19th century French neurologist, Dr. Jean-Martin Charcot, who's one of the founders of psychiatry, and his star teenage patient, Augustine. Then there is her film Proxima, which is the story of a female astronaut preparing for her year-long mission while trying to overcome the guilt of leaving her 8-year-old daughter. All of her films deal with these kinds of relationships. They're mostly female-centered, and they're all Revoir Paris, especially, which debuted at the 2022 Cannes Film Festival, was nominated for, it won a number of awards, and Virginia Fira, who stars in the film, won the Best Actress Award that year, as well as Best Actress Awards in so many other festivals. Anyway, from a broken glass to shattered lives, Revoir Paris follows Mia, a translator living in Paris, who 3 months after surviving a terrorist attack in a bistro is still traumatized and unable to recall the events of that night. In an effort to move forward, she investigates her memories and retraces her steps, revealing itself through Mia's connection with other survivors. The cinematography, the music, and the editing combined with outstanding performances, all blended to create a memorable and uplifting story of people determined to rebuild themselves. Although this is a fictional film, it is based on what actually happened on Friday, November 13th, 2015, in Paris and in a suburb of the city, when terrorists conducted a series of coordinated attacks outside a soccer stadium, in several Parisian cafes and restaurants, and the worst of all, at the Bataclan Theater, where 1,500 people were in attendance at a concert. Some held hostage until police raided the theater. While 130 people were killed that night in the attacks, including 90 at the Bataclan, and another 416 were injured, almost 100 critically. It was the deadliest attack in metropolitan France since 1961. Alice Winokur, the director's brother, Jeremy, was at the Bataclan on November 13th. While he was hiding, she stayed in contact with him by text for part of the night. The film was inspired by her own memories of the trauma and by the account her brother gave in the days after the attack. She has said in interviews, "I experienced myself how events are deconstructed and often reconstructed by memory." In weeks following the attacks, Alice Winokur, went on forums for victims who had regrouped by sector, and it was very moving to see hundreds of people looking for each other, trying to find each other, trying to find possessions they had lost during the attacks. They were all looking for news of the people they had been with, who they exchanged a look with, who they spoke to, maybe just a few words of encouragement. She met a group of people trying to rebuild their lives by occasionally returning to the scene together. She was very struck by the idea that you cannot reconstruct yourself on your own. There have to be at least two of you. It's a communal thing. That's why she wanted to make what she called a choral film with a lot of characters from different backgrounds. It is a moving, understated journey into survivors' guilt, a film whose characters keep their big emotions to themselves, built on a quietly compelling performance. It may be the best depiction of how trauma changes your psyche and your life. Months after the mass shooting, we see Mia. She cannot yet return to work. She's recovering from her physical wound and even asking about plastic surgery on her abdominal scar. She says to make it go away, but it seems it's not just the scar she's talking about. And the title itself comes to reflect Mia's experience after the attack. She is in limbo. She is no longer herself, and she feels that the city is no longer hers. She's starting to take stock of her life, and she senses that she needs to reconfigure it, that something needs to change. Of course, there's also a more direct meaning. Mia is seeing Paris again after the black hole of the attack. She's seeing Paris through new eyes as a first step on her road to recovery, though she doesn't really know this yet when we first see her. The attack is filmed from Mia's point of view, so all she sees are the terrorist's feet. As Alice Winokur's brother told her, it is impossible to film a terrorist attack. It is beyond belief. So Winokur went for an hallucinatory effect and the incoherence of Mia's memories. That's how she filmed it. We see how a random set of events places her at the restaurant. As she progresses to remember, she meets with other survivors at the restaurant, the most important being Tomas. We know that they did meet eyes at the restaurant during his birthday. Although he is physically damaged from the tragedy, his sense of humor and outlook are strong, and Mia finds it attractive. The expression that Sarah uses, Sarah, who is the sort of counselor for the group, the expression she uses when Mia is relating her memories, she calls it the diamond at the heart of the trauma. The diamond at the heart of the trauma is a real term that psychiatrists use for the positive things that can come out of a traumatic event, such as the friendships that develop, the love affairs, the strong bonds which would not have formed if the event had not taken place. So she wants to look at the positive side. The counselor says we have to look towards the sun, towards the diamond at the heart of the trauma. The flashbacks that Mia and other characters have, the girl hiding in the ceiling with the Australian, they are also based on real testimonies. In the film, they are different from the traditional flashback scenes in that they are almost mental images that suddenly and involuntarily surge up and invade one's consciousness, like a kind of psychic break-in, causing one to relive a past traumatic experience. Some of the most affecting moments occur in the last 20 or so minutes. There is the beautiful scene with the young girl, Felicia, who lost her parents, and Mia visiting the orangerie with Monet's water lilies. Alice Winokur explained that she chose the location out of intuition, but later learned Monet had given this picture to France after the horrors of the First World War, so people could meditate on a scene empty of human presence. He said that visitors should stand in silence before the painting, the better to contemplate the beauty of the world. It was her intuition which led her to this, yet what comes out of it is so much more beautiful. There is the wedding that Thomas and Mia crash, a moment that is connecting themselves with happiness. It is a happy moment, a sense of coming back to life, even though they still walk among the people like ghosts in a way, among the people in the wedding, or angels, if you will, celebrating a joie de vivre and ending up making love. They end up leaving and making love. There is the touching moment when the blonde woman who accused Mia of locking herself in the bathroom apologizes and admits it was she who hid. When she reaches out to her, it is heartrending. It is heartrending. To understand, to apologize, especially after her anger at the beginning. And of course, we know how she has come to be in the restaurant in the first place, how Mia has come there in the first place. Believing her lover had to go off to a hospital emergency, she wound up in the cafe. Later comes the truth that he was having an affair. Amazing when we think about the writing, about how the script works. Amazing how one's indiscretions can lead to another's eventual painful encounter. And then there is finding, losing, and eventually finding again Essay, who held her hand and saved her life. Hassan represents a great deal in the film. He's an illegal immigrant in a city where we also see Spaniards, Japanese, Australians, Germans, and Senegalese. There's a line in the film that says, if the Senegalese, the Malians, and the Sri Lankans went on strike, there'd be nowhere to eat in Paris. There would be nowhere to eat in Paris. It's almost a comment on the world. It's a comment on immigration. but yet it fits right in. They all occupy the back kitchens of Paris, but they are also invisible, like the ghosts haunting Mia. And when she walks away from him, selling souvenirs on the street, he finally comes to realize who she is. It is an incredible moment in the film. And finally, after they walk and he tells her what really happened, it is a moment of pure grace and tremendous emotional impact. It is also a symbol of the power of connection and comfort. Psychiatrists say that holding someone's hand releases oxytocin, a comfort hormone, which is similar to what a baby feels at his mother's breast. And it's sort of a social reflex in situations of extreme distress. Revoir Paris does not have a pat ending. Mia and Thomas have their lives impacted, but they are all individuals, and what may hold for one may not hold for another. All that is certain is the uncertainty of life, but there's also a kind of solace in living in the moment and embracing those around you while one can. But one thing I am certain of is that Revoir Paris is one of the most moving films of the last year. Concerning the cinematography, the shots of Paris and its lights were very important and symbolic of what terrorists were trying to extinguish. The city we see is not the city of just tourists. It is the streets and cafes and apartments of the real city of Paris. The music score is a combination of romanticism, pop, post-metal, and it is somewhat liturgical, conveying a number of tonal differences. As well as Virginia Fira as Mia, Thomas was portrayed by an actor. His name is Benoit Magimel. He's a three-time French Academy Award winner, and he too gives a powerful performance. And he pops up in another film I hope to be showing you later in the year. I don't want to reveal the title. I don't want you sneaking up on me. Maya Sansa, who plays Sarah, who works to counsel the other survivors, is one of Italy's finest actresses who works internationally and plays a pivotal role in the film. And Amadou Mbao, who is from Senegal and who is not an actor, but was a graphic designer and a videographer who began acting just before the film. He began taking acting lessons before Revoir Paris. He turns in an absolutely touching performance as Hassan. So there you have my take on the film, a film deserving of all the accolades it has won, and I hope you appreciate it as much as I have. And now I'd like to open it up and turn it over into a discussion, get your feelings on it, get any comments you have, any questions. So I know there's a lot of you tonight, which I'm thrilled to see. And you just have to raise your little hand. There's a hand raising in the app, or you can raise your hand physically as Linda Peva did, and she can go first. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. I'm always into the music, and it seemed like it was going to be a typical morning, but the music was so foreboding that it really had you on edge. And I was waiting for something to happen. She's feeding the cat, and she leaves the place. There's a lot of traffic. I just love the music in that movie.
Yes, it was very powerful. The differences in tone, all of it. But the opening is so symbolic because the first thing we see is she drops the glass. It's a shattered glass. And, the rest of the film leads to these shattered lives. I thought it was an interesting way to bring us in, a poetic way to bring us in. Arlette.
Hi. My heart dropped when the woman conveyed to Mia, as she's trying to get the pieces of the puzzle of her memory together, of accusing her of being in the bathroom and locking her out. I actually have chills right now just replaying that scene. What a horrible, horrible situation for her. My heart just dropped. And then I was so happy to see later on that the woman did confess. And the woman is suffering too. She lost her husband. Everybody here suffered in some way, whether it was a loss, whether it was mental or physical. Everybody loses something, unfortunately. And it was played so well. I especially like the cinematography when she gets off her motorcycle in that rain, that pouring rain. I expected an accident to happen. And she just calmly, walks into the restaurant. It's something she's used to. And I did like the interaction that took place there between her and Thomas.
Terrific. Thank you all. That, it is interesting. I mean, there is a film that was done years ago with Jeff Bridges and Rosie Perez called Fearless, about a plane crash, and they're the survivors. And it is the same thing, dealing with coming back to life and the struggle that they have. There are some of the similar things, but this is so much more powerful and how it involves so many more people. Jackie.
We both liked it a lot, and we both thought it was very powerful. We agree. Interesting that you talk about the cinematography and the music. Usually I'm all over the cinematography, but this is one movie that it all blended so well that I didn't pay any attention to that whatsoever. It was just one long drama, the heartfelt drama with them. And what I thought was really interesting is it didn't matter who the person was, including her boyfriend. They all felt the horror and the drama of it. They all had their own stories. They were just different stories. And I like that. I think it shows that we always think that it's the people who are really involved or who are there, but not necessarily, because you have people behind you that are affected too. And we both really like that.
Yeah, the other thing that was interesting to me is them going back and recalling their memory by talking to others, seeing others, things like that. And it's always interesting because a lot of my career, I had to do interviews on people. And one of the big key things, and it's the same thing the police do, no one talks to anyone else. Separate people as quick as you can and get their version right away. And you got to think about that, immediately after an event, you have to get everybody separate because you don't want one person's story to confuse the others. But then once you've gotten that initial story down, it is interesting, months later, they're finding stuff they had completely forgotten.
Yeah, it's they're suffering from a certain kind of amnesia, a certain kind of, not wanting to deal. So they bury it, and by talking to each other, it brings it to the surface.
Well, it's all PTSD.
I'm sorry, Jackie.
It's all PTSD, every bit of it.
Yes, it is.
For all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about the cinematography, I always say one of the great things about great cinematography or good cinematography is you should never notice the camera. You should never be aware of the camera. And if the drama did that for you, that's terrific. That's terrific. I'm glad you made the comment because it leads to that idea. So thank you. Bonnie Long.
Yeah, I really liked the movie, and I thought it's important to note that and this movie pointed it out quite well, that when a person goes through an experience like this, I'm not sure that anybody is ever the same afterwards. And, so they can't return to normal life. So that's why relationships sometimes fall apart, new relationships form. I thought it was interesting, the man that the other victim with the broken leg and had
Thomas.
I thought it was interesting what his wife said. She said something to the effect that, I'm not sure he realizes it yet, but I don't think our relationship is going to survive this. And I think that's true in any kind of PTSD situation where somebody's undergone something so traumatic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in a sense, she's expressing her trouble with dealing with it as well. Creates this distance that she can't get into. Yeah, I mean, it's all very real. I mean, Alice Winokur really did a tremendous amount of research. And if you noticed at the end of the film, there was a dedication, which was for Jeremy, which
Yeah,
was for her brother, who survived, but who had all of this going on in his head, dealing with it. So thank you, Bonnie. Rachel, you have to unmute.
Why am
There
I
you
not?
go.
All right, now I did it. But I also loved the movie. It was fantastic. And it also had knew something was going to happen. A lot of times, because I see movies so often, and when they do a whole routine at the beginning, I know something's going to be earth-shattering. So it was interesting that when she was in the restaurant and somebody bumped into the window, I thought that was the start of something happening. And it wasn't. And so that was wonderful in a movie, that when you think something's going to happen, it doesn't happen. And and I was great also in this movie is that you never knew when it was going to occur. She was in 2 different cafes. You didn't know when it was going to occur. And also her nonverbal communication when she looked at other people. And, even when she first walked into the restaurant after that whole traumatic experience, and initially the guy says to her, "Oh, the bathroom's over here," but he could see in her eyes. And he goes, if you're, and she was so wonderful. You really believed her character, definitely believed,
Sure.
Yes.
and it was so intense, and it was heart-wrenching, like you said, like other people said, that scene where that woman said, "It's you that locked the door." And when she said, it was me, and that she hugged her, because there will always be a connection with all those people that survived it.
That's right.
They will always be connected.
Yes, it is, it's interesting also because again, in writing a script and doing a film like this, there are things that we know that the rest of the characters don't know. And we see her coming from the bathroom. We see her looking at the 2 girls coming the other way. And
Right.
she walks back into the restaurant and she's on the floor. So we know she couldn't get back to the bathroom. So we know that. And in essence, it plays with our mind when that woman comes up there and says, "You locked yourself in the bathroom." We're going, "Wait a minute. Is this what we saw at the beginning?" We have to recall. It's about recall. And it's also interesting. Nobody, is I found it interesting that she plays a translator. She plays someone that has to translate a language, that has to, that works, that has to be focused on a language and translating it for others to understand. And now she's forced to almost learn another language, to learn the language of what happened, to try and translate for herself what's going on, what did happen to me. All of it works in tandem. The script is so organic in its approach. So, Karen.
Well, I agreed with your statement that it was a powerful movie. I was just riveted to the action the whole time, and I was really drawn in. One thing that made an impression on me was the service worker who didn't leave. All of the foreigners left, but because she was from Spain or something, she didn't leave. She said she saw the guy's face, and he had the face of an angel, but causing so much trauma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's you got it. I mean, it's because it's a surprise. It's something you don't expect. We don't know who's who. We don't know, what anybody could do at any given moment. And I think that gets to the heart of the whole situation. This film is very humanistic. It is totally humanistic in its approach. It deals totally with the humanism without creating a false mechanism for us to watch. So thank you. Who else? Anybody else out there?
Yes, I got my hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Bobby.
I am agreeing with everything that everybody has said. I thought the movie was marvelous. I mean, the whole everything. And I thought that the actress, she was fantastic. All the acting in the movie was wonderful. So as usual, I go to look up to read, more about the movie. And why is it the New York Times and some of the others didn't think it was all that terrific? They thought there were too many plots. They thought that the romance was yicky in the middle of it. I mean, I'm reading this, I'm saying, they got to be out of their minds. Either that or I'm out of my mind.
No, they are.
Yeah, I mean, some of the reviews really, really surprised me.
Well, it's the answer is there in the film. It's like the lady who accused her of locking herself in the bathroom. I mean,
Yeah.
it's critics, you don't have to listen to a critic. I advise you don't read a criticism before you see a movie so that you can tell the critic he's insane, he or she is insane after you see the movie. It's very subjective. It's very subjective. And like anything else, you should read a critic for what they do have to say about the progression of the film. But once they start to get into the plot, and if they don't like something, it's because they don't like it. Doesn't mean you have to dislike it. So always remember that. Always remember that. You're right, though. I disagree with a lot of the critics. Jackie?
Well, I was just going to say one more thing, and it kind of comes on the heels of what Karen said about something that kind of struck her or stood out for her. Through the whole movie, it was very tense, obviously. We all know something was coming, and when it did, all the drama. But more than once, they went to the Arch de Triomphe, the circle. And I thought that was very interesting. That really stood out to me because it was actually a very calming moment every time they showed that, with the traffic going round and round, and some stayed on the circle and some left and some came in. And I thought it was very telling about the movie because there has to be some moments of calm. But it was interesting to me that some of those people maintained, some of them left, some of them came. And I thought that was very telling of the movie itself too.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's a terrific comment because it's exactly why that Arc de Triomphe is there. That's France. It is the Arc of Triumph. It is the fact that they will triumph over this. It's the fact that, but we do notice that the people who gather the flowers, the posters, everything begins to disappear, but life goes on. But the lights stay on. And that's really what's important. It's why we see the lights of Paris, why we, constantly focusing on those things. But the Arc de Triomphe is the most important element because of what it says about the country, what it says about the people, but also what it says about people from everywhere coming to this place. It's the center, it's the hub, it's the heart, and it is the heart of the movie. So thank you for bringing it up. Dorothy.
Yeah, I think that this movie is a very positive one on how therapeutic reliving the past can be or searching the past. But it's a double-edged sword because it could have gone the other way also. And so this, I think, is a perfect movie for people with PSTD who want to free themselves, get rid of the guilt, etc. I'm just saying that it could have gone the other way for some people too,
That's a great comment. That's a great comment. Thank you. It's also the idea that one can feel empty, not being able to fill in the memories of what happened. You walk away from this film and saying it's tragic if you can't put it all back together, but yet they found the diamond. Each one found that diamond by connecting with someone else. I mean, the young girl who lost her parents, and she's walking around with the photograph she said she just spoken to them, and and she's trying to have closure of some kind. And when Mia takes it to the orangerie to look at the paintings, I mean, they stand there and you can see on their faces, it's that connection. It's the idea of connect with something beautiful. And it can help you. It can be therapeutic. Just what you're talking about in terms of this therapy. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Linda. Linda. You gotta unmute.
Always forget that.
That's okay.
Anyway, I thought it was so powerful, and I thought that they kept it powerful by actually showing so little of the violence, because that was really such a few minutes of the whole movie that they showed that, and they kept all the focus on the feelings and the people. They didn't do anything to just glorify, how sometimes they stay on the violence way too long, showing you too many details, and somebody quivering in the corner, and the hateful, they kept it very minimal. And then it was horrific enough that you got the idea, but then you could just concentrate on what it did, to the thing. That it made me think about all these shootings and all these school shootings and stuff, what these children are going through, and sorry about that. Somebody called it. The shootings that they're going through, and how what is happening to these children now, and on all these other mass shootings all over our country. That it's not just this was a horrible event, and now we just try to rehabilitate, and it just really just kind of made me sick to think, because it was so believable. It didn't seem like that they were exaggerating what they were going through or anything. It was just really, really believable. And I think that we need to, I don't know what we need to do actually, but we need to do something. But anyway, that was, to me, was the most powerful thing about the whole movie, is they kept it strictly with the aftermath.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because, and she even says it, is her brother told her, how do you film something like that? You can't, anybody who's witnessing it is seeing feet, is flashing, they're not paying attention, they're just in fear or whatever, that's going on. So it is snippets. It's like she just sees the feet, she hears the shots. You can't focus. And I think, and purposely avoid showing us any of their faces, because they don't look up to look at their faces.
Right.
They don't, so that's the realism. She captures the total realism as much as she could have, it's almost hallucinatory, the way she does it. It's in pieces, it's a montage. It's not full, and you're right. There's no reason to concentrate on that. Let it go and move on, and then we move on to the importance of the film. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else out there?
Shelley, can you hear me?
Yes, Marilyn, yes.
When it first started, I thought, oh my God, I don't know that I could watch this. I found it so disturbing at the beginning, and said, how are they going to handle this? But I really think they handled it beautifully, in that they didn't make it over dramatic. It was done in a very realistic way, and I think it gives us so much empathy and sensitivity, that the way they handled it, because you see the people who are victims of PTSD and what they are really going through, and it's awful, and there's so much of it that we can relate to in this country. It's a variation of we all know something that we can relate to it in some way, and from the undocumented workers, from the number of people who are innocent of some of these people will just never ever recover from this.
Yeah, it's
It's
true. It's
really
true.
tough.
And that's the cross section we get. But we can relate. I mean, this film is so resonant and relevant in essence because of what it does reveal. But it's relevant because it's happening. It's happening. We're hearing it happen too much, and it is random. You don't know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. Look, this is the same thing that happened in Israel on October 7th.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the same
Mhm.
mass attack. It is a provoked attack. How can you prevent something when you're at a normal event? You're sitting in a cafe at a restaurant. You don't think of these things. And if we had to make them armed camps, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it. So it's very hard for us to absorb. Thank you, Marilyn. Linda.
Also has been
I
how
think,
many of the people who are affected could ever really go back to life as it was. And then when I'm saying Revoir Paris, it's like goodbye Paris. But it's goodbye to a Paris that she used to know.
Well, it's also, yes, because it's also au revoir means also till I see you again. It's coming back. It has to come back. If it doesn't come back, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You want to be able to come back. She sees it differently naturally, but she still sees it as her place by the end, by holding his hand and accepting him and accepting what he did for her. It's a big statement. It's a big statement.
Her
And
tenacity in finding him was incredible, though.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
I
yes,
mean, that's persistence on steroids.
Mhm.
yeah. Terrific. Thank you, Marilyn. Go ahead, Linda.
I was going to say two things. I think people are more aware and more afraid today that I find myself sometimes going into a public place and looking for the exit, the nearest exit. I never did that before. If somebody drops a plate or something in a restaurant, I mean, people are nervous right now. The other thing is, I don't want to get into politics, but the undocumented people are human beings. And whatever they've done to get here, whatever their lives were like before, they're gone and nobody even knows. There's
Yeah,
no history, nothing is left.
Everybody has their reasons and everybody has their story. To consider that these people obviously, especially someone like Hassan, came there for some reason that he had to get away from where he was from. And, he did it the only way he could. And
Mhm.
here he was on the street selling, but yet he was a human being. And he was a very kind human being.
Mhm.
And even, the woman that led Mia to him understood that. It just works so well. There's so much poetry in the film. But yes, we have to realize that they're all human beings. They're all human beings. Arlette.
Well, I want to get to the point of where Thomas and Mia are lying in bed and he is just touching her scar. And then she's kissing him on the shoulder near the back where he was hurt. And there was that connection that they both had that was so deep, and they kind of understood each other and they felt for one another and they acknowledged the suffering that they both experienced and so will continue experiencing. I thought it was so poignant, that particular scene. And then she also touched his leg, where the metal, what's the word that I want? Oh my God. What supported his leg? I can't think of the word I want.
Brace.
The brace, thank you. And how she just so endearingly touched his skin on his leg. I mean, that was a connection only those two could feel at that moment. And I loved it. Loved
Yeah,
that part.
Good. You should have, yes. That was done very well. Anybody else? Anybody else out there? Okay, well, this was terrific. It was terrific. It's good to be back after a month. I look forward to more. In fact, in a couple of weeks, we have a film from India. The film is entitled Pink. And it is when one says no, they mean no. If we know what we're talking about in today's society, it's the story of three women who one of them is has been subjected to an attack, a physical attack, and is instead of being defended, she's almost prosecuted for it, for how she responds. But you'll find out about that during the film itself. It is an award-winning film. It's got a terrific cast. It is one of the best films, I believe, to come out of India, dealing, remember, we're dealing with a situation of, sexual abuse, sexual attack, and how it's responded to by Indian society, by the Indian authorities, and how it woke up a lot of people. The film received a tremendous amount of viewership in India, and I'm looking forward to hearing your comments on it. So I will look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Those of you who are celebrating the new year, have a happy and
Happy
healthy
New Year, feel better.
Happy,
Thank
healthy New
you.
Year.
I hope my voice changes by then.
I'm
I'll
sure it
grow
will.
up.
And see you all October 10th.
October 10th, yes.
October 10th, that one day before Yom Kippur.
Right.
That's
Right.
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 Okay,
Okay.
so happy and healthy one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy and healthy for everybody that celebrates and feel better, Shelley.
And for those who aren't celebrating, everybody have a happy and
Kelly,
healthy
just
time.
don't talk for a while. Use sign language.
That's not easy for me.
Can he do that?
It won't happen. It won't
Yeah.
happen. I'm
But
sorry.
Right.
this was a good one, though. I give
Thank
a
you.
good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Be well.
It was
I'll see you
great.